One of Power's brand new maps, Tide Tycoon, was just released, and here's how I saved the collection. I get tons of questions revolving around why there are traps in players' inventories and what they are used for. The save point device limits us to what is and isn't allowed to be saved, such as health, inventory, resources, team, and class. Because of this, I've had to come up with unique ways of saving progress to create custom achievements, quests, and even levels. Okay, so I've gone ahead and set up a very simple quest/achievement mechanic that can also be used for levels. Something to keep in mind when you're doing these kinds of mechanics is the save point can't save device attributes such as trackers and stuff like that, so you need to find new ways of tracking progress such as items. So before I go ahead and show you guys how this is working, let me go ahead and explain it. So the quest that I've set up is to press these 3 buttons. Every time you press a button, it transmits on channel 2, and channel 2 will go to this granter. When granted, it will activate channel 3, which triggers this condition button, which takes 3 traps for it to go through, which means this achievement could be like collect 3 flowers, pet 3 cats, something that involves 3, collect 3 of something. Once the player has done it 3 times, this condition button will be activated, transmitting on channel 4. Channel 4 will then complete it, and they get some gold and also a little custom victory message that I've set up. So let me go ahead and start the game, and I'll show you guys how this will work. Okay, so let's go ahead and press button number 1. And as you can see, I was given 1 trap. 1 trap is now in my inventory. Trap number 2, and then when I get the 3rd trap, it's going to complete the quest because that is 3 of the tasks finished. And there you go. Congratulations, you completed the quest and I was granted 500 gold. Now the awesome thing about this mechanic is that items save, dependent on if you make sure they save from this device. Make sure you're saving inventory or resources depending on what you're trying to save or what you're tracking, because then every time I leave and rejoin a new game, I will still have 1 trap or 2 traps, and then when I get that 3rd trap, this button will trigger no matter what stage I'm on. Another example of this is how Echo does his achievements in Prison Breakout. You're given a bunch of achievements that are really large in Prison Breakout, like get 500 eliminations. You'll never do that in one game. But if you do it with this mechanic, over time, throughout the many sessions you play, eventually you'll do it, and this will trigger, giving you your reward, or whatever he gives you when you complete that. Now, following the same idea, you could do this with levels. You get 3, the conditional button completes, and it can put you on a new team. That could be your new level, or you could give them a player-specific item and have that locked behind things like this. Alright, so I've gone ahead and switched how this works a little bit. Now when I complete the achievement, I'm also given bacon alongside my gold. This bacon could be useful for things you have levels locked behind. For example, this conditional button, I require 1 bacon to get inside this box and to get that jumbo chest. This could be extremely useful for if you're creating like level locked areas. For example, the Golden Cavern in Tide Tycoon where you need a key to enter. So let me go ahead and show you. So right now, I do not have a piece of bacon in my inventory. I just have the 500 gold, so I'm not able to interact with this conditional button. However, if I do my challenge again, or my quest or achievement, or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to get 3 traps. And then I'll complete the quest. I'm given 500 gold, and now a piece of bacon. This could be like however many bacon you have marks however many levels, so I could be like level 1 with only having 1 bacon in my inventory. Of course, the player may not know why they've been given 1 bacon, but for the sake of your game working, that may be the indicator of what level they're on. Now, if we go and walk up to this conditional button, we can now interact with this. We're teleported in, and now we get our wonderful gold loot. For a further example, I even made a level 2. Now, if we get 2 bacon, we can go ahead and interact with this, and we'll be given a Midas flopper. I've just restarted the game, and as you can see, I still have my 1,000 gold. Now, something to keep in mind, the reason I don't have the bacon is because I left a setting on this conditional button, which I'll make sure to turn off when I'm showing you guys the settings. So now, if we want to get to level 1, we're gonna have to search 3 of these things again. 1, 2, and 3. And then, of course, we've completed the quest, we're given 500 more gold and another piece of bacon. Which means we can go ahead and enter this room, or we could save that piece of bacon and go ahead and interact with this. So we need another piece of bacon, so let's go ahead and interact with these 3 again. And just like that, we've completed it again, and now we have 2 bacon, so we can go and interact with this conditional button and get ourselves a fancy Midas flopper fish. And as you can see, it took the 2 bacon. Now, taking the bacon could actually be useful if you're trying to do maybe level points or achievement points, and they spend these points in your shop that you have made for them. There are multiple uses you could do with this same mechanic to save things you maybe thought you couldn't save before. Now, typically when someone makes a quest in a game, that doesn't necessarily use save point, they would use a tracker device. The one downside with the tracker device with save point is that these do not save in between game sessions. However, we can use a little bit of a trick to go ahead and reassign a tracker if a player should have a tracker. On the save point device, I've gone ahead and put on player loaded transmit on channel 1. And you could have that channel linked to a conditional button that is activated on channel 1 that checks for whatever item you want to check for. And if they have that item, you can go ahead and activate on whatever channel to go ahead and reassign that tracker. And this could be how, examples, Pro Fishing does their leveling system in their map. Now, I'm not saying that is actually how some of these maps are doing their systems, but it is a way of recreating exactly what they have. As with all mechanics, there are dozens of ways to do dozens of things, so this is only one way of doing these kinds of things. But now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the mechanics, so you guys can go ahead and set up your own little achievement thing, this little package right here for yourself. Okay, so a lot of the systems that I've done here aren't necessarily required, and you have a little bit of creative freedom on your own. So for the sake of that, I'm not really going to be showing this. If you guys want to know this, then maybe I can show it off in another video, but this doesn't really matter what you do in this situation. This could vary for all kinds of maps. What you do need are these 5 devices, or 4, or if you want multiple quests, it's up to you really, but this is like the bare minimum for what you need to make your own kind of quest or achievement, or a possible leveling system that would save over different games. The first thing to note is that you are going to need a save point device. Now, for the sake of settings on this, you actually don't have to change anything. In fact, I recommend you don't let players clear their data. In death runs and things like that, yeah, you could probably allow them to clear it, but for the sake of most open world maps, I recommend you don't allow them to clear it, or you make them clear it a different way that isn't in the menu for the sake of them actually knowing what they're doing, because some of these games could go for hours and you don't want them to accidentally clear their data. So for the sake of save point, literally just place one down in your map and don't change a thing. Now, you can change a thing if you want to like save their team, but other than that, don't change a thing as long as you want all this other stuff. Yes, it's kind of up to you. Make sure you're saving these two though. These are very important. Save their inventory, save the resources, or vice versa, depending on what exactly you're tracking. But one of these has to save for this to work. Specifically for mine, resources must be saving for this specific system to work. For the conditional button, let's call this the check for completed progress button. I've gone ahead and renamed all these devices so you know what their uses are, but this is the check for completed progress device. Here are the settings that I changed. Now, reset delay, I'd recommend putting it on none. If you put it on default, it won't really matter, but if 2 people complete a quest at the exact same time, one of them won't go through, and it could break some things, so just make sure you set it on none. The key items required is however many steps there are to complete your thing, whether that be search 3 things, search 4 things, search 5 things, get 6 eliminations, open 7 of something. You know, this is all just a matter of however many times you want that player to increment their progress. And then these channels are up to you. You can copy mine or use your own. Just use free channels that won't interfere with other devices that you have going on. So for the sake of this, you can do activate when receiving from on channel 3, and when activated, transmit on channel 4. The next thing we have is the item granter for the progress item. Now, this can be any trap item, and I mean any trap item. If we go ahead and take a look, this can be the ice block, the chillers, the bouncers, the speed boosts, the movement modulators, anything that places on a wooden tile and is not a free moving prop. For example, the RNG device would not work because it doesn't place on a tile, compared to a sequencer which does place on a tile. You want to make sure you use one of these that are tile locked and not one that is free moving. And here are the settings I've gone ahead and thrown on this. So you want to make sure they're keeping all their other items when you're granting it to them. You don't want them to be like clearing their inventory, so make sure this is set on keep all. Now, the equip granted item, this is a setting that I have switched for the sake of a bug. You want to just go ahead and make sure it's first item, or else it will be like equipping and pulling out, and they'll be able to see they have a trap and they might be confused. Also, just something to keep in mind that if you're going to be going ahead and doing this kind of a method, you want to make sure they can't be placing traps or using traps in any way, or building. They can build, just make sure it's builds only and not traps. And then, of course, for channels, let's just do grant item channel 2 and when item granted channel 3. Again, these channels can be up to you, just make sure they're linked in the same manner that mine are. And then the next thing is the reward, or the level check that we're gonna put in. So for the sake of this, it could be 1 bacon is 1 more level increased, and the 500 gold is just the reward. This is just whatever you want to reward them, whatever they get out of doing this quest or leveling up or achievement. So for this, very similar settings, you want to make sure you keep all. If you have more than 1 item in here, you want to make sure you have all items. And then for grant item and receiving, we can just do the channel 4, which is the same channel that is linked at the end of this conditional button when activated. And then these things are kind of a little bit of creative freedom, but I thought they might be fun to show. The more important thing is the gain progress system. Now, for the sake of this, I used a button. You want to make sure this transmits on the same channel when interacted with. Transmit on channel 2 is the same channel that this trap is given to you. But you can have some creative freedom with this. You could be tracking eliminations, or you could put it on a button like I did. There's a bunch of different ways that you could track items or trigger a channel on something being completed, so you just want to make sure you have some way of them actually doing the challenge. So if you want to do a button like I did, the interaction time you don't have to put on 1 second. I did that for like aesthetic pleasing, but you can go ahead and put channel 2 on when interacted and transmit on. And then this thing is completely up to you. Like, you don't even have to do this. I just think it's nice to kind of show them they've completed the quest or achievement. So here's my like completion message that I've set up. It just says, congratulations, you've completed the quest. I do some like HUD formatting here if you want to know how to do that more. I can also do that in another video. Of course, anything that you see in here that might still be confusing to you, go ahead and leave a comment. I'll be responding to some and trying to help you guys out. And if you need some more explanations, then I might go ahead and do a video on some of these other little knickknacks that I'm using. You want to make sure you go ahead and turn time from round start off. You do not want them getting a random completion message when they haven't even done anything yet. Display time is completely up to you. You could make it last permanently if you wanted. I don't recommend it, but you could do it, or you can make it a couple seconds or like a minute. It's kind of up to you. Text style, again, that just comes down to formatting. However you want to make this look pretty is completely up to you. And then just make sure this is the same channel that this granter was triggered on. That way they're like linked together. You get the items and the HUD message at the exact same time. Now that's how you go ahead and create your own little progress, achievement, quest, and leveling kind of system. Very, very minor basic system for you guys. But I'm actually going to go ahead and jump into Tide Tycoon and show some of you guys behind the scenes of how we did our kind of collection book system, so you guys can kind of get more of an advanced knowledge of how that worked. I won't dive into the exact settings, but I do want to show you guys it. Okay guys, so here we are on the power account on Tide Tycoon. I don't want to give away really all the secrets that we did, but people have always asked what the traps are for and what they're used for in Tide Tycoon. And so a basic rundown of what they are is the traps all correspond to a different fish, and I just check for if you have that trap for if you want to spawn the fish in the collection. So the collection is kind of a fake collection. I mean, it's real in the sense that you could visually see it. It's collecting something else that you just don't know about that relate to each of the fish. But I was able to set up that whole system using conditional buttons. You guys underestimate the power of a conditional button. They are honestly my favorite device, the best device in the game, and they have an absurd amount of uses. If you would like me to go in and do an entire video on them, I will, and I can, because they are amazing. But yeah, there you have it. That is the collection and how I did it in Tide, and that is how you do a level and achievement system in your own game. That could also be used for quests and other progress checking things. But yeah, it is absurd the amount of creativity you have in creative, and I'm sorry if you got a little confused, but I'm a creative guy and this is how my life works.